All right, I'd like to call to order the March 13th, 2018 Planning Board meeting. At this time, I'd ask everyone to rise and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, in accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every planning board member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any planning board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before this planning board today? Okay. All right, we do have a quorum. We have 6 members present. Are there any changes to the March 13th, 2018 agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes as presented.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'm sorry, the agenda. I'm sorry.
Motion to approve the agenda as written.
Have a first? Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now the minutes. Are there any changes to the February 13th, 2018 minutes? All right. If not, I'd entertain a motion for approval. Approval of the minutes as presented.
Also a motion.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Is there any old business?
No, sir.
All right, new business. For each case that's presented to the planning board, the following speaker time limitations are effective. The applicant and persons in support of the request have a total of 20 minutes to present their proposal and make comments. Persons in opposition of the request have a total of 20 minutes to make comments, and the applicant has a total of 5 minutes for rebuttal. All right, the first case is agenda ID number 2118, agenda item PB 1706, Miller Homes and Building LLC, request for conditional rezoning from agricultural to conditional general business on the property located at 155 Survey Road for a bakery light sandwich restaurant, tax map 15, lot 47B, Moyock Township. Is there anyone here to represent the case? And if so, could you please step up and give us your name and address?
Good evening. My name is Sam Miller. I live at 147 Sanderson Court.
All right, thank you, Mr. Miller. We'll get back with you in just a moment. All right, does the planning board have any questions for, I'm sorry, this is out of order.
We'll have to look at it.
Yeah, do we want to go ahead and present the staff want to go ahead and present the?
We can do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
If this looks familiar to the board, you saw a similar request on November 14th, 2017 for this property. That was a straight rezoning to our MXR district. Since then, the request has been revised to a conditional general business district. And just to orient you, Currituck Highway in Moyock, and you come down Survey Road. That's the little corner piece there, but I guess technically in the elbow of Survey Road. It is zoned agricultural. Both the land use plan and the Moyock small area plan have this as full service. And this just gives you a depiction of the property. And it is the outbuilding here that is being turned into the bakery. Okay. As I stated, this is a conditional general business rezoning request. And I will come back here. And you can see that there's a significant amount of general business behind the property, so it can almost be seen as an extension of that general business zoning district. I'm not going to go through each of the review standards, but they're on page 8 and 9 in your packet. And staff has determined, or TRC has determined, that the review standards have been met. And that includes things such as consistency with land use plan, small area plan, the demonstrated community need. And that was one of the things I wanted to point out. Some of our land use plan data in the Imagine Currituck survey that y'all have helped us with, it said 48% of respondents to a recent Imagine Currituck survey prioritize encouraging small commercial businesses such as restaurants or local retail shops as the #1 effort the county should take. So this is certainly a step in that direction. I will go through the staff recommendations with you and the consistency and reasonableness statement that we are requesting to be adopted as well. Staff does recommend approval of this request. The use would be a bakery and specialty sandwich shop. The applicant offers the next condition, and it says the following uses are prohibited without additional approval from Currituck County Board of Commissioners. He's listed nightclub, bar, automotive sales, shopping center, pawn shop, arena, stadium, wind energy, major utility, helicopter landing, halfway house, or boat sales. And I will just add, since we're approving the use as a bakery and specialty sandwich shop, any of those uses listed would require someone to come back before the board anyways. The consistency and reasonableness statement, I'll just take a minute and read that to you so we can get it in the record. The request is consistent with all county adopted plans that are applicable because it is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the land use plan and other applicable county plans, and it's consistent with the purpose of the UDO. Actually, get here. Okay. There we go. It is consistent with the 2006 land use plan and small area plan. It's not in conflict with any provisions of the UDO or the county code of ordinances. The use addresses a demonstrated community need. The use is compatible with existing and proposed uses surrounding the land subject to the application and is the appropriate zoning district and use for the land. The use does not adversely impact nearby lands. It will result in a logical and orderly development pattern. It would not result in significant adverse impacts on the natural environment, and including water, air, noise, stormwater, wildlife, vegetation, wetlands, and the natural functioning of the environment. It would result in the development that is adequately served by county public facilities. It would not result in significant adverse impacts on land values in the surrounding area. And finally, it would not conflict with the public interest and is in harmony with the purpose and intent of this ordinance. Staff feels that the request is reasonable because the use is similar to the existing and proposed uses surrounding the land subject to the application. This is the appropriate zoning district and use for the land because neighborhoods serving commercial uses are allowed in the conditional general business zoning district. This parcel fits that description since it is off the highway and within walking distance of a school and several neighborhoods. And with that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
All right, are there any questions for staff? All right, Mr. Miller, if you want to come up and present your case.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is something that I think you've all seen before relative to what we were talking about doing. My wife has a home bakery, and it's kind of gotten to the point where we'd kind of like to have our kitchen back. And she'd kind of like to have a little bit of normalcy at home and kind of feeling like it's time for her to take the next step. So we had this property for a while and had begun preparations of those types of things. And we do live in the area. We do business here on a number of different fronts, so this isn't something like we're trying to do from afar and say, it's not fine where I live, but it's okay where you live. But in short, she's been doing those things. We've been putting a lot of hard work into it. Some of the other things that I've been doing business-wise in the county are coming more towards the end of what I'm doing, and I have some time to do this. So we've kind of agreed that this is the direction that we'd like to go in, and I'm starting to put some of my efforts into that. As you may or may not know, I'm a general contractor, a building contractor, so we do commercial and residential. And so we're doing a subdivision on the mainland, but then we also have a restaurant we're building for somebody else over in Corral that we just got all the permits for this week. So we're doing that out towards the Harris Teeter area over there. But that was an existing remodel. It's not a new piece. That's not something you all see here, nor does it necessarily apply. But long story short, we do these sorts of things, and we'd like to put this together for my wife so that she can have something now that our youngest son, as you can see, is with us tonight from soccer practice. We just finished up with that coming here, and she'd like to have something now that's kind of hers to go forward with. So that's kind of the intent and the personal side of things, what's going on with it. As far as from the business ordinance, those types of things side, obviously we'll comply with the UDO standards and requirements for the fit, finish, performance of the building structure and whatnot. We tried to pick out, as far as from the conditions go, we do know that it's much more appealing and acceptable to see, conditions. So we did try to pick out all the things. What are the things that we thought we would never want to do with the property and would not make any sense, or what we would not want to live next to? And that's kind of what we put forward with those types of things when we thought about the conditions. So things like nightclubs or an automotive sales or stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, there's places for certain things like that, but they're not necessarily places next to a school or next to a neighborhood. And we're cognizant of some of the new developers that are doing some things like in Lakeview, which is across from, to make sure that we're not causing conflicts, with their business and things. And if we had a subdivision, what would we not want across the street that would be detrimental? So we're trying to not create any foul with anybody. We're trying to blend in as best as we can. We do not have, plans or prints or any of those types of things, but we do plan to take the approximate 1,200 square foot outbuilding, which is a red iron metal building. It serves well for a commercial need. We do plan to retrofit it, pretty much demolish the front out of it, put a storefront into it. We'd like to build a nice covered porch off the front, and what we're looking for is more of a down home kind of country feel. If you are familiar with Mount Pleasant Road in Chesapeake, there's a small place called Burgie's. Maybe you all been there for ice cream or sandwiches. Similar kind of feel and structure. Maybe not quite as farm and rural as that, but a Cracker Barrel, Burgie's kind of blended feel is kind of what we were modeling after. We always like going there. It's just we don't have one here. My wife does a good job baking. I'm not a good representation of that, people tell me, because I'm a little too thin. But, she does a good job with that. She enjoys it, has a lot of passion for it. And we just think it's a really nice fit. We're excited about it, and try to put everything in the forefront to do that, trying to be upfront and honest with you about everything about it. I don't know what else to tell you about it, but that's the best picture and best image I can about it. But I'd be glad to answer any questions that y'all have and try to fill in any gaps.
Any questions for the applicant?
It would all be full service as well. So we do have the county water, and we would be connecting the sewer. We did get approval from that from Dan Scanlon as well to connect the sewer in as well.
Any questions for the applicant? No questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Discussion, sir.
Oh, there are no, okay, discussion first. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
See if there's any opposition, perhaps. If there's anybody here for opposition. He's done.
He'll get sent to bed early if you
I'm sorry, sir, are you in opposition of this? I
What do you
guess
think
not.
about Mama's Bakery? Is it a good idea or a bad idea?
All right, is there any discussion?
as we talked about in our preliminary meeting before tonight's meeting, it does not appear that we need to include the statement that the applicant has provided as far as the prohibited items that he's agreeing not to do. The table of permissible uses that's already in our plan already says what you can and cannot do with a particular zoning classification, so we really do not need to mention that. But I do believe we need to include the statement on our end that says that this conditional general business use will be only for bakery and specialty sandwich shop along with the residence that's existing already.
I would concur with that. Was just out of curiosity, was there a reason that you put those conditions in there?
I'm trying to be flexible. I mean, when I look at the property, I look at it a couple different ways. There was some recommendation, quite frankly, from staff that you need to pursue conditional zoning, so we pursued conditional zoning. The property next to it's GB, and we're talking about 1-point-something acres.
No, I guess what I'm asking is, the conditional rezoning already states proposed use is a light bakery and a sandwich restaurant, and if you wanted to change that, you would have to come back to the county anyway. So there would be really no reason to put that number one with all of those other conditions in it.
Well, I guess for one, I'm not completely aware until this point that that's the only thing I can do now and forever foremost with this property. But I guess if that's what it is, that's what it is. If it fails someday and and somebody else wants to move in there, then if they want to do a restaurant or a bakery, then I guess that's okay. But something other than that, that wouldn't be permissible, correct?
The way this reads, that's correct. But I mean, if you have some suggestion what you might want to do with it if it fails, I mean, now would be the point. We could.
I mean, I don't like to talk about that publicly because, I mean, we're talking about my wife,
Sure.
and I'm not looking for her to fail, and I don't want her to feel like I have those things. But in business, you have to think about what if things don't work?
Certainly.
What do you do? And you have money invested in it. And from a county perspective, the last thing you'd want us to do is do this, go forward with it, do it for some period of time and not work out. We close the doors and you drive past a vacant building for the next 100 years.
Sure.
I think there's some pause and question in that we should consider and say, the way I looked at this and the way I presented this was, with openness and honesty, this is the intent of what we plan to do with this product. We plan to deliver this product. Someday my wife gets tired and old and we decide to retire and my son or my daughters don't want to bake or do whatever with this and no one wants it and we close the doors. Someone may want to do something with it. They may not want to bake in it. They may not want to do a restaurant. They may want to do something else. My intention was, well, then it wouldn't be ever a nightclub, a bar, an automotive sales, a shopping center, a pawn shop, an arena, stadium, so here's all the things that I think don't make sense here relative to GB.
If I'm not mistaken, though, that first sentence would prohibit all of those anyway, correct?
Without coming back.
Right, without coming back to,
Right.
right.
And I'm trying to be fair to somebody, 100 years from now, or 50 years, or whatever it is, who says someday, well, maybe something changed, and why not? Why couldn't we do that there? At least they have an option to ask the question that the door is never nailed shut, but there's a lock on it, if you will.
Do you have a question, Jay?
For staff.
I was just going to say I don't think we're really changing or prohibiting anything by taking that out. I think it just really simplifies.
Right.
I mean,
It's more of a
yeah.
cleanup of it.
My only hope with us was we could do the bakery restaurant for my wife, and if it didn't work out, as long as it wasn't one of those things, it could change someday if we ever wanted to.
Well, you would still have to go back to the staff anyway.
Okay.
Either way, right?
To change the use
Right.
from what's approved. Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
the
so it wouldn't really
conditions.
make, that whole paragraph would really kind of be moot because you'd have to come back anyway.
Okay. Is that the way we do things if we, just hypothetically speaking, say you had somebody who built a strip mall and they designed it and they built it at the highest commercial class, which is typically a restaurant class, like a A1 or A2 or whatever they designed and built it as. And then we presented that and said, well, we don't really know who's going to move in, but we're going to build it and they will come. So do all those applicants, before they do that, have to come to the planning board and gain approval? Is that how that works?
It's a conditional rezoning.
Right. So if it's in a general business, that wouldn't be the case, correct?
Right.
Right. So if it's a conditional rezoning, that would be the case.
Okay. So then, if somebody ever wants to move into this again, regardless of whatever they do, unless it's a restaurant or a bakery, they have to come ask
Correct.
if that's okay.
Correct.
Is it true?
And yourself, I mean, even if it did fail and you wanted to do something else, you would still have to come back to staff. So,
And go through the community meeting and go through the whole process again? Or is that just a staff level decision?
that, you guys can answer that better, Lori, or the staff, would that be a staff level decision if you wanted to change it, or that's a whole
That would
community
be a new
meetings?
rezoning request.
A whole rezoning request, okay, yeah.
Is it true or not true that if it were to change ownership, the zoning remains the same with the same conditions?
That's true.
That's correct.
So if you were to sell it, whoever you sold it to could continue with the same thing that's going on now. But
Right.
if there is any change whatsoever, they have to do the whole process all over again.
Is that how you all would like it?
I guess that's the purpose of
I
a
mean,
conditional use.
Quite honestly, I would like to see, and this is up to you completely, maybe a couple of options in case you don't want to talk about if it fails, but
Right.
instead of being exclusive by saying, I don't want to build any of this stuff, inclusive, like, we could build this or this.
That was kind of my intent, the way I presented it. My apologies for my ignorance or lack of understanding of how that presents in the paperwork with the conditional pieces. That was the intent of why we said, the following are prohibited without additional, thinking that, okay, well, what are the conditions we're applying? Otherwise, none of this, to be honest, really makes any sense at all to me. Then we might as well just say, what is your intended use? And we ought to just ask that regardless of anything else.
And that's basically what that first paragraph says.
Yeah.
This is the intended use, and
Yeah.
everything after this is just,
Because when you do the application, you fill the application out, the application says what's your intended use. So you try to be honest and say what your intended use is, and then now we're kind of standing here and I'm going, well, geez, I didn't realize that was the only thing I could ever do with it. I was thinking, this is what we plan to do, and here's the things that we'll never do, which is why originally, one of my requests was, if all the neighboring property behind it is GB, why wouldn't this be GB? It's not like we're across the street or anything else. We're literally the corner on that.
Well, one
As far-
difference is that the properties behind you are GB, not conditional GB.
Exactly my point.
And your honesty is not being punished.
It's kind of the way it feels, but I get you.
Your honesty
Yeah.
is you're saying exactly what you want to do, and that's what you're asking for the Board of Commissioners to allow you to do by changing the zoning
Right.
in a conditional way,
Right.
not permanently changing it to GB.
Yeah.
That's a difference there.
rather than making this, like I said, exclusive, if he were to submit this with, like, say, 3 or 4 different scenarios and say, I'd like to do this, 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 or this, we could also do a conditional rezoning with that, right?
Does that
Or
mean
you can even back out and say retail or restaurant or something. You don't have to
More
specifically.
generalized instead of specific.
So, I mean, we're really trying to work with you to help you
Yeah.
with this and then help any future owners of it. But with the way it's written right now, that's it.
Yeah.
It's a bakery.
Right.
So,
So what does that mean? Do we basically punt again and go back to a community meeting and start over? Or?
well, no, we can actually do it right here, right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you had 2 or 3 suggestions and said you wanted to add them, we could make the recommendation
Okay.
to,
Okay, great.
instead of exclusive, we could include. And am I correct on that? Okay.
Okay, great. Are you, Tammy, are you guys able to pull up that sheet that has the list of things that are in GB, and maybe you could pick a couple that are categorically appropriate?
Or just pick a category. That might even be better. That's
Perhaps, yeah.
most conditional rezoning say, for example, we want to do retail in this space.
Correct, right.
And they don't say what particular type of retail.
Okay.
We can bring up the permitted use
I mean,
Because my kind of intent was, if this is we got the list in the UDO that says, here's GB and here's your categories. And I kind of went, well, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense, but everything else that was left, I could kind of see where that might make sense. And I was hoping to see from y'all if you said, well, hey, maybe you missed one or two. Can we make these ones not okay as
Yeah,
well?
I just think the way this is written, you're making it more restrictive on yourself.
I really don't want to do that. I appreciate you working with me on that because,
It's already in the rules
Right.
anyway, so why repeat it again?
agreed, yes. Yeah.
Well, I have a question, staff. Why, and maybe you can tell me, why is this a conditional rezoning instead of just, hey, I want it to be general business?
Good question. The direction we were given is that there are uses that could be allowed, potentially allowed in the GB district that could conflict with the neighborhood, could conflict with the land use plan and so on. So by doing a conditional rezoning district, you can keep those things that would not be compatible off of that property.
Like I think you can do automotive sales in GB without anything else other than just doing your site plan and going forward to planning staff and saying, does this meet the setbacks and all the UDO? Okay, great, I'm going to start selling cars there.
Right.
And our intent was, well, look, we really think car sales is a great thing here, and boat sales is probably not great. And this
But once it's proved and it goes to GB,
And
he
it
can
it could
submit
be
whatever he
anything.
wants and
And it
do
can
whatever he
be
wants.
anything.
So,
And we-
That's the beauty of the conditional aspect, is because you're saying, hey, these conditions are, you can do this specific thing or somewhat
Right.
general thing instead of the whole gambit of what's allowed.
And I think Tammy can probably answer this or add to this comment. Since conditional zoning has been an option in the county, that's kind of the route that we've gone. This was a straight rezoning that came to you. There was another straight rezoning that came to you around the Ponderosa mobile home park. This has just not been the preference to move forward on straight rezonings. There's only
Right.
been 2 or 3, I think, since in the last
And they were down
15
zones.
years since we've had
15 years.
conditional rezoning. So that's why, that's another reason, as precedent setting, is like if you do something a straight rezoning, it's like, well, you did it for one applicant, why can't you do it for
Sure.
another one?
Yeah.
So,
This is your commercial uses here. Oops. Institution.
there you go, daycare. Look at that. You can start your own daycare.
Yeah. We're almost done with that. He's great, but yeah, we're good with that for now.
Plus, we don't want competition.
Yeah, there you go.
Moyoc United Methodist Church is starting its own daycare.
There you go.
Oh, that's why Kenesha has to leave.
Hey, you put in that plug because you're on video, right?
No. It's all over Facebook.
Then it must be true. Must be true.
Well, I mean,
It is true.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Ms.
All
Bell.
right.
Oh, good.
I guess the kind of things I'd look at is if we could look at the GB category and say, look, you can do all this GB stuff in here except whatever ones we're talking about. And that's what I kind of tried to flag going through it. I don't know if there's other ones that you want to do, but that was my intent of how I wanted to present this.
I think the problem is the way the conditional rezoning works illegally. It's pretty much you have to make the statement of what you're going to use it for and that condition.
So instead of saying, for example, a specialty eating establishment, which is what we would consider the bakery and the sandwich shop, you can say eating establishment. You could say office, any of the, you don't have to get as specific as the use
Okay.
name. You can stay in the category.
So
Okay.
obviously, eating establishment would be one of your choices.
That would be one we'd like to do.
Are there any other categories that,
I think offices might be appropriate,
can you see this or no?
I can, it's right in front of me,
Okay.
actually. Yes, thank you. I would say offices, I think, would probably fit okay there. I think, to be honest with you, recreation, entertainment, indoor, with some limited outdoor. One of the things we had thought about doing, if this went well, would be that maybe we remove the residence someday and put in batting cages or mini golf or something like that as well. We're right now, there's not a whole lot of places for kids to go do any of that kind of stuff. You know, or you want to go with your family on an evening and get some ice cream and play some putt-putt. There's nowhere to do that, and we thought that might be something that we could evolve into someday. So those recreation areas were something that, you know, something we thought that we'd like to be able to do at some point too.
I think that would be a stretch.
Yep.
So office, recreation, eating establishment.
I don't know what else is on the list, Tammy. And I'll just give you a brain dump of everything, and then you can say, nah, I think not. I think the area could fit for retail at some point, but I think some of them wouldn't make sense. You know, we're not going to. I don't really think I'd want to encourage a pawn shop or you know, other things like that. You
Yeah,
know.
the problem with doing the whole retail category is you'd have to line out a whole bunch and say, no, not these, but.
Pay attention also, this is your GB, and I've cut it off at the top, but some of those would require their own use permit.
Like even if you want to do a pawn shop, you still have to do.
Even if you want to do a pawn shop
Yeah.
or a shopping center, you would still have to come in for a use permit.
Okay. I don't think any of the vehicle sales, heavy or light, or any of that kind of stuff make any sense.
I'm sorry. Oof.
The retail might be good since you do have ones that are already blocked with use permits. So maybe that might be something that someday somebody might want to do with it. You know,
Tammy,
maybe
could
they
you
want
read
to sell.
something's wrong with my glasses here. Could you read the permissible GB ones under retail?
Okay, we have bar, nightclub, or cocktail lounge, so that could be one that you call out that's prohibited since he's already offered that. Convenience store, drugstore, pharmacy, entertainment establishment, financial institution, funeral home, grocery store, laundromats, personal services establishment, repair establishment, retail sales establishment.
I could see somebody maybe wanting to do some retail sales there or something out of that. It's not that big of a site, but you could, you know, maybe you're selling, I don't know. There's a guy that I used to live next to who used to make pottery. He was a teacher. And, you know, maybe want to sell pottery, you know, have his studio or something and sell pottery out of there or something like that. Or maybe somebody wants to sell fishing tackle or something, you know, out of there, something like that. I'm not saying those are, I'm just trying to, it's not my game of tricks, but I'm trying to think of what could you possibly do with it.
So I think if we added the three categories and then sort of just picked a couple of these within the retail realm, do you think that would be sufficient?
I think that would work for me real well. I'd be super excited. Just gives me some flexibility at some point if something happens.
How do you guys feel about that?
So you're saying bakery, office,
Well, eatery,
Eating
office,
establishment,
eating establishments, office,
retail sales.
retail sales, but for the retail sales,
Except X, Y, Z. kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Or only retail sales
Or only,
establishment.
because it'd be a smaller list if you just say only. If you say
Yeah, that's fine.
these three things out of the retail side, whatever.
What about the recreation and
Recreation.
Oh, the recreation,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're okay with that? Okay.
So maybe those three. And then which ones within the retail section?
I'd probably say
Retail sales.
retail sales establishment. I'm not sure what repair establishment classifies as. Is that like TVs or you used to have TV shops, you know,
Repair,
stuff like
maybe
that?
auto repair. Yeah.
Auto repair is actually under the
Separate
next
one,
section.
okay.
So it'd be like small appliance repair. Somebody does, you know,
We've got
washer-
somebody now that does jewelry repair and stuff like that.
Okay. So I mean that. I don't know who would do that, but okay, maybe that might be a suggestion.
I'd Are you keeping track of these, Tammy?
Financial institution, you know, maybe you got an Edward Jones, maybe it's a Morgan Stanley, you know. Like,
That would
could be a
offices.
drugstore or a pharmacy at some point.
Wouldn't
I
that
could
one
see.
fall under offices, or is that still a retail?
It's actually in retail sales.
It's
I'm
retail.
reading from that right now. And I don't know if I'd say convenience store or not. I mean, that one, I think drugstore or pharmacy, you know, at some point. Maybe a Rite Aid or a Walgreens. They normally like the corner traffic light stuff, but, you know, maybe they might want to do something like that with it someday.
Seems a little small for that.
And the
We
size
don't
of the
have enough
lot will
parking
limit
for that.
Yeah.
how large the structure can be that's.
Yeah, parking is gonna be an
Uh-huh,
issue
and
with that
parking.
triangular shape.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, they could always buy additional property too from the, you know, from Doris and, yeah, the florist, right, yeah,
Frank?
yeah. Those are the kind of things I could see, maybe. I mean,
All right, so ideally, then it would be the three categories completely, and then,
I think it's
And-
5.
I mean, the three main categories. And then within retail, would you say 3 of them or 4 of them?
Do we have to be specific as far as retail is concerned? I mean, because if we are, then that means you can't do other stuff even though you
Well,
could.
what he was saying was he wanted to be exclusive as far as there's certain things within retail that he doesn't want to build. But it would be a smaller list if we just say, what would you like to see? Because it's only about 3 or 4 things.
Like in retail, I would say that retail sales establishments, repair establishments,
Financial.
financial institution, drugstore, pharmacy, I think those 4
So
make sense to me.
those 4 with the other 3 categories.
Excuse me, I think it's 4, maybe 5 categories, actually.
Office,
Has
was
staff
office,
repeated what she's written down?
eating,
Well, it's,
recreation,
And
we can call it eating establishments,
Yep.
category 1.
Yep.
Offices, category 2. Recreation, indoor, outdoor, category 3. And then we can say category 4, retail, sales, and service, limited to these things.
limited to the following.
Okay.
So 3 main categories, and then a part of a 4th category.
Part of the 4th
it.
category.
Is the eating establishment going to allow him to have the commercial kitchen he wants?
It will, because under eating establishments, it's everything from that small specialty restaurant to a full-blown restaurant.
Cool. I just wasn't
Yeah,
sure
good
because
question.
like some strip malls don't allow but so many
Right.
restaurants and they can't have but certain things.
You can even have a dinner theater.
Yes. Dinner.
well,
Good
it depends on
idea.
if the kids come or not. We'll have theater that way, right?
Mystery theater. Mystery theater.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. That works really good.
I have a question for staff.
Yes, sir.
If we put these items on there as things he is able to do, what happens in the future when he wants to remove the dwelling? Does he still have to come before us again? By removing the dwelling and not putting another dwelling back, but putting something else there?
I would say no, because you've already approved
We've already approved the
the uses.
conditions.
But he is allowed to switch out a manufactured home or another single-family dwelling in place of what exists there now
That
if
is
something
correct.
were to happen to it.
That
Or
is
if he
correct.
just wanted to upgrade to a newer.
Newer model.
And did that GB also include duplexes?
No.
GB does allow for,
I don't think it does, Tim.
let's look. I think duplexes are the same as single-family dwellings. All right.
Just so he knows what his options are with the residential aspect of it.
Oh, nope, I'm wrong.
Yeah,
can
because
be
that's why
dwelling,
originally I
live,
wanted to
work.
do
Yeah.
something different, yeah. Yeah, this doesn't allow for that, for a duplex,
So only single-family,
right.
okay.
That way, if it completely all went sideways, I could at least still put a house on it and sell it and get out of it.
And he can also do the accessory dwelling unit
Mm-hmm.
by right unless you prohibit that as part of
If
the
it's
use.
less than 1,000 square feet and subordinate to the main
Right.
structure.
Right.
Are there any other questions? Any last comments, Mr. Miller?
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion. This will be a fun motion.
If you want to see, if you just want to say like you said, then I can, what I can do is put it all together and just email it to you. So that way you can make sure, and email it to Sam, make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay. But I still need to entertain a motion.
So how do you want them? I'll take a shot at it.
There you
but-
go. Go ahead. You read, go ahead.
They'll tell you how to do it. They told me.
I guess we can be pretty broad and say that, motion to approve it with the added categories, and that being, eating establishment, limited retail sales, with the categories you're going to add, recreational, indoor, outdoor, and office space. Did I miss
Got it.
anything?
Y'all don't need me, he's got it.
You guys are good note takers.
And that, all that is, meets the land use plan and the proposed zoning?
And do you adopt it with the consistency and reasonable statements as well? Or
We
make
do.
the motion with
1
those
through
as well?
11?
And the reasonableness statement as well. Was
The
that
what?
good?
The reasonableness statement.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's reasonable because of the surrounding
I just
land.
need you to say it, that's all.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your help.
Yep. All right, are there any announcements?
No, sir.
If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion
I'll
to
make that
adjourn.
motion to turn.
I do have an announcement.
Sorry.
We will be having a meeting in April. Kimley Horn is going to be back. It's going to be about the Currituck Station. And so we're going to go back out to the community in April. So we'll be following up with you on, I was getting the email together during this meeting, but to be on the lookout for notification about a MOYOC meeting in April, to get back up there, address some issues that we heard at the last meeting, kind of give some updates on other county projects other than Currituck Station, and then give an update on Currituck Station as well and get some feedback.
I don't know if y'all ever, I'm sure you've heard of it. I saw an interesting thing on TV a couple weeks ago about this neighborhood being developed, kind of like the mega site. And part of the development was what they called an agri-neighborhood. I thought, now that's pretty cool.
Justin Owen is actually, the last proposal I saw for development he's bringing around the library in Moyoc. He's proposing that to be an agri-hood, it's what they're really called. I
Right.
thought he was making it up, but I looked it up and sure enough, it's a
Yeah.
real thing.
Because they showed, like I said, this neighborhood being developed that way. And I thought, what a wonderful idea for the residents to have a place to have a garden or whatever.
Turn the open space into a garden, community garden.
Yeah. Or you could just say, I want this plot or whatever and grow you some vegetables or flowers
They
or
all
drugs or
kinda share it on
marijuana
a
or
water
whatever.
system.
Oh, excuse me. Hey,
All right, are there any other announcements?
Maybe one day.
Well, we're in the farm area. Might as well grow
Have a
whatever.
motion for,
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
have a second? Second. All in favor? Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.